Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Rogue Mage, the new Gwent single-player roguelike game, and we are in the middle of a run here. Going with, currently, a Bulwark deck, for the first time with a Glace as our key card. And thus far, things have been going fairly well to start things off with. We have a couple of events here that soon awaits us, followed by an elite battle immediately thereafter, and then after that, treasure, and likely we'll see ourselves going this route for hopefully a chance to get a little more energy back before we go into this place of power, or rather this elite battle right here. And once we get there, there's not that much time left until we get to the boss battle, which will be the swamp monster. So let us hop in here and, I mean, take your guess as to which one of these we think is going to be the most effective. I don't know, maybe this one? It's the Ancient Writings. Whilst traveling late into the evening, you find the ruins of an old elven structure bathed in the light of a full moon. Upon numerous walls and pillars, strange symbols softly shine. It's a lot of alliteration there. You've always been fond of deciphering ancient scripts, and decide to spend some time trying to understand the mysterious etchings. Okay, I think we've seen this before. We definitely have. Alright, let's see. Your mind works overtime as you begin to decipher the ancient text. It appears to be a series of questions. You could very well be mistaken, but you think the answer to the first part is either power or knowledge. Yeah, so there's a series of questions here. It's not just this one. It's like 3 or something like that. And last time I remember that this happened, we got, I think, a card at the end of it, but it wasn't clear, like, are we always going to get a card in this situation? And the type of card we get depends on the choices that we make. Like, if we do power, do we get something that, you know, is going to increase the power of our cards, has like boosts or something like that, or is knowledge something that maybe increases the consistency of the deck, or is it just, well, power is greedy, and so you're going to get punished for your greed, whereas knowledge is much more honorable, and so if you pick this, you'll be rewarded. So we probably did this last time. Let's try mix it up a little bit. You scratch your chin and raise an eyebrow. This is your thinking face, apparently. Not entirely sure of your conclusion, you suppose that maybe the answer this time is quite possibly order or chaos. I mean, and orders are, of course, a specific type of ability that exists in the game, whereas chaos is a type of deck archetype. So, I mean, these do seem like they could be things that would directly relate to the specific card you're going to get at the end of this. So I think we want order. Then let's see. You've pondered on these life symbols long enough, and are now confident of your ability to read them. Your eyes pan over the etchings one last time, and you settle on your final guess. Life or death, I imagine, boosts versus damage, and we are primarily a boosting deck, so I think we go life. And let's see. An illusionary wall disappears. Behind it, a massive light shines brightly. Upgrade a unit by 2. Okay, I mean, we'll take it. You know, maybe it's not... Maybe that's what we saw at the previous encounter, but is there a specific card that would benefit most from receiving boosts? I mean, stuff that needs to stay on the board for a while, like Anna Strenger, the Temerian Drummer, so those are basically just weaker versions of Anna Strenger. Sienna, I'm not too concerned about her getting destroyed immediately. I mean, it's 6 power, she's probably just out of removal range for most things, at least in one turn, assuming we play her on the turn before we're going to use her ability, so she doesn't need to last for that long. Treant Boar can heal itself, so that's not as much of a concern. I think we're looking at probably an Anna Strenger. And didn't we duplicate an Anna Strenger before? So would have loved if we had, of course, upgraded her and then duplicated her. But alas, I think we'll go that route. Lured by the etching and enticing glow, you reach out your hand, but the light disappears before you can touch it. Okay. Though you're unsure of what just happened, you decide it's best not to stay any longer. Okay. Well, we have another event coming up right here. So let's see what this one is. This time it's the dream. I don't think we've seen this before. You slowly open your eyes, your heavy eyes. There's only darkness. Are you dreaming? From somewhere in the shadows, a figure shimmers into view, his body translucent and strange. He beckons you closer and offers you great power to help you on your quest. But such power, of course, comes with a cost. Ooh, I mean, there's some creepy art over here of what looks to be some kind of animal, maybe a rat that's skewered by a quill or, you know, just a feather of some variety. So that is a little bit off-putting, yeah. So in general, when we see these types of things, usually what happens is we get something nice, but it costs us either energy or it costs us a card that is just worth nothing, and so it bricks our hand if it gets there. So is that the type of thing we're willing to do just before an elite battle? I don't know. I mean, it is our first time seeing this, so maybe we'll take our chances here. Let's see. He grins. What do you wish for? Gain full energy. So 15, which is not a very big deal. Remove Horn of Plenty. That's an amazing card that we definitely don't want to get rid of. Upgrade all units in your deck by 1, but lose all energy? What the heck? Riches. Gain Magnifying Spyglass for the consistency and Glorious Standard. Downgrade all units in your deck by 1. Okay. So definitely some pretty huge upsides and pretty huge downsides here. It is quite extreme. So, I mean, if we... I think if we weren't about to go into an elite battle, we might consider losing all energy. This is a non-starter, though, in this situation, so I think we probably do go the riches route. Downgrading all units is unfortunate. It does get things more into removal range for our opponents if they are using damage, but of course, for the most part, we're trying to boost cards up to make them much bigger, and so we can maybe overcome that. It's just going to mean we have a little period of vulnerability before those cards do get high enough that they're much harder for our opponents to get rid of. So the Spyglass, though, does give us consistency, and the standard... Oh, well. Then again, looking at it a little more closely, doesn't Glorious Standard basically just completely counteract the downgrading all units in our deck by 1? Technically, being boosted by 1 is actually better than having base power than 1 in some ways with this deck, because we have some cards like the Mauler, like a Glace, that actually prefer to be boosted than they do have base power. So yeah, this sort of cancels this out. It can still get reset, which would be a little bit more... We'd be a little more susceptible to having those cards being boosted rather than having that be base power. But then adding in the Magnifying Spyglass is basically just, you know, a little bonus on top of that, and that's a pretty big bonus at that. So I think this actually makes a lot of sense. As you wish. The strange figure proclaims, his words echoing all around. He smiles and snaps his fingers. You wake up in cold sweats, unable to remember the dream you just had. Seems like the kind of thing that Gwent Dim would do. In fact, is there any sign of this being Gwent Dim? Hold on, let me peer more closely at this image here. No, I have no idea what that is. Let us proceed. So, I actually think that did pay off for us. I think it did, and that means, at this point, that we have 3 treasures in our deck. We could potentially get one at the end of this elite battle, though we'd probably choose to upgrade a place instead, and we could potentially get, hopefully, we'll get an upgrade or a treasure at this treasure chest as well. I believe there's an achievement for having a deck with 5 treasures in it simultaneously, which means that could be quite feasible to do right now. It basically just means we need to get through here, and we would need to want to choose the treasure, though, as I said, I'm skeptical that's what we would choose to do. But anyways, let's hop in. I suspect it has been so long since we've encountered the failed experiment that I would think it's going to be him, but who knows, right? And right on cue. There it is. Okay. Just our second time seeing him. It has been so long since we last encountered it. We do have a Glace in hand, and although her base power is 1 lower than usual, with that boost, it means that her order ability is actually stronger, which is why I was saying that in some ways is actually preferable, and likewise with the Eternian Mauler. So, and the Stranger starts inspired as well. That's really nice too. Less significant for these guys, but hold on. Let's remind ourselves what the deal is with this guy. So, start of your turn, mutate. You can transform into, I think it's 3 different copies of yourself with different leader abilities. One of them randomly transforms a card, and I don't remember if it's just your cards. It might also be able to transform one of our cards, which is dangerous, because that means that you could potentially transform... A Glace would be the worst case scenario, right? If we are putting her on the board and trying to upgrade her significantly, boost her up significantly, and just either we're about to trigger her ability or we've already triggered her ability and she's huge, then failed experiment turns right around and transforms her into, you know, a 1-power rat, and then, well, all that investment was for naught. So that is the downside of that. So that might be one of the more dangerous forms for us. There's another one that deals a somewhat large chunk of damage, and I forget what the last one does. Probably something like boost their own cards, but I don't remember exactly. So, okay, we do have, of course, remember, magnifying spyglass. Let's just, before we mulligan our cards, get a sense as to which cards we might want to target with that. And I would think the answer would be, maybe we go Sienna plus Ramon. We have bronzes that we like in our hand. I mean, creating multiple Adurning Maulers is not great, because it is hard to boost all of them. So if anything, we'd probably like to have something like a Temerian Drummer for that purpose. So yes, that's a possibility, but it's a little bit of a risk. Otherwise, Ennistranger is, of course, a solid choice. I think this is the low-risk option. This is the higher-risk option. Unless we try getting rid of Adurning Mauler and see if we get something else here that's preferable to invest our boost in. Obviously, we have a Glace, which we'd like to boost up, but as I just said, there is a lot of risk in this encounter, and in particular, I think, in putting her on the board early and trying to build her up over time. We'd probably like to try to save her for last, and not going to be nearly as big for that reason, but much less likely for her to get transformed into something that is completely useless. So let's... Okay, Treant Boar is not bad, but it is good. The problem is that it's not a bronze, and we now have 0 bronzes, which does make it rather difficult to justify going a Sienna here. Might dump Stennis.
The man in the mirror will be disgusted with me if I don't see this through.
Okay, and suddenly, we get Ennistranger, and this is our powered up one that we just upgraded. And, oh, wait, is it only... Wait, hold on. Deck. We boosted in our deck. Boosted in our hand, but the ones we just brought into were not boosted? That's weird. Okay, no, I think it's just a visual bug. Because here, this is the base power, this is the current power. Here you see it is boosted by 1 up to 4. So you would think that the number there would be green, which indicates that it's been boosted above its base power. But I think the game is just confused because it's like, well, this card has 4 power, this card has 5 power. That's usually what it has, but in this case, it's been lowered once. The base power has been lowered once by that previous event, but it's been boosted by this guy, and so the game's like, is it boosted right now? I'm not sure. But anyways, so now that means we have the cards we like here, and we do have a solid setup with Temerian Drummer to go Sienna, Ramon into super Temerian Drummers all over the place, and then maybe last card that we draw into, what do we want that to be? It could be another boosting target. I think it probably should be. It's just a question of, should it be Trident Infantry or should it be the Adurning Mauler? I think it might actually want to be Trident Infantry because, well, on one hand, if one of our units gets transformed, if Adurning Mauler gets transformed before it uses its order ability, not only are we losing a highly boosted card, we also just miss out on all the value from that investment in the order ability. Whereas Trident Infantry, yes, if this gets transformed, even after all those boosts, sure, we lose a highly boosted card, but we at least got the additional value from the damage that we dealt along the way. The counter-argument to that is then, well, if they transform some of their cards that got damaged, then Trident Infantry's damage was for naught, but I think that's still lower risk than this would be. So I think it's 1, 2, 3 is probably the order. Or, order these two doesn't matter too much because we would like to have them both together. So 1, 2, and 3. We'll use those to create additional copies of Temerian Drummer in particular. And remember, we have Neutralizing Serum. So what we want to do is identify which form of the failed experiment is most concerning to us and use Neutralizing Form to get rid of that one in particular because it shuts down the leader ability for 1 turn. So, as I said, I think the one that can potentially transform one of our cards, that's probably the one that we are most worried about. So that is likely to be the one that I would hold off on, or the one that I've used the Neutralizing Serums on. I know they have one that deals damage, So... In Enderstranger, we want to get down early. We're going to have to delay the Temerian Drummers a little bit until we get Sienna and Ramon out here. So maybe... I mean, Enderstranger doesn't really do anything when she's there by herself. So maybe we go Treant 4. And because we don't have anything to damage, the ability doesn't mean much yet. But if we deliberately put you in the melee row on this turn, or put you in the range row and use your order ability on nothing, then next turn, if you do take damage, we can heal you, which is possible that might be relevant. So, I mean, everything else requires additional setup, so I think we go that route. Now let's see what this form is going to be. Spawn a random unit. Oh, okay. Spawn a random unit. That's the other one that I did not remember. Okay, now this is damage. Whenever you play a card, damage random enemy unit by a random amount. Oh, right. And the number, yeah, the number is not defined. I remember. It can be absolutely humongous, right? It can go up to something like 9 damage, which is just huge. So that is kind of scary as well. Let's see, they got the Caravan Vanguards, and then I think, other than that, this guy actually plays somewhat similarly to the Mad Scientist, in that it'll spawn in a bunch of cards on the board, so that if he does transform one of his own units, then it's not, there's a high quantity of weak units, and therefore it's unlikely that he will lose value in the process. So we are very likely going to want to aggressively use energy here. But is this the encounter? Damage random enemy unit. So at this point, it's going to be Treant 4, or it's going to be whatever we play next. And whatever we play next is not going to be Sienna. It's not going to be Temerian Drummer. It's not going to be Zolt. I mean, it could be Zoltan to boost you up. You might be able to survive that hit. Treant 4. I mean, might actually want to keep it in the range row here, so that it can heal that off if it does take the damage, but even then we don't know if it's going to survive that damage. And the Stringer probably makes the most sense, but she's obviously also susceptible to getting destroyed. So I think what we'll do here is we will probably play her range row, and we will use Treant 4, because at least in this case you're going to get boosted up by Stringer by 1. Okay, so I was a little bit tempted to use this, but we'll see. That I don't like. They're gonna get rid of 3 and 4. They are. Oh man, that's a lot of damage. Whenever you play a card, boost a random allied unit by a random amount. I'm not sure we've seen all these. We only saw 3 forms before, didn't we? We saw blue, green, and red. We've seen damage. We've seen boost. We've seen create a random thingamabob. Is that all of them? I feel like we've learned of a new one here. I think now this is probably still the least dangerous, because it's the least likely to disrupt us. It won't disrupt us from the order ability at least. The leader ability at least, so definitely not going to use the serum here. Would have liked to have had Stringer, but of course she got destroyed. We do have another one, fortunately. But I think now we go Sienna, because that means next turn we can go Ramon for super duper super duper Temerian Drummers. So she should be safe, which is key.
So dreadfully miss my darling little sis.
That is key, because she is susceptible to getting shut down. So this is, one would think, a nice little window. A huge boost. Yeah, so I think that number is random, but as we've seen, oh my god. Boost self by 3. Spawn a copy of self on this row. Why did you get boosted by 9 and then get boosted once again by your leader ability? Did they just use their leader ability twice on the same turn? Should have gotten boosted by 3. It is not boost self by the number of copies in this row. And that's functionally what just happened. So that... Okay. We've seen this happen several times before. The wording of cards in Rogue Mage is, at times, if not deceptive, outright just deliberately misleading, seemingly, or just outright wrong. Because that's outright wrong as phrased. You should have gotten boosted by 3, instead you got boosted by 9, which means you got boosted based on the number of copies you had in this row already. That is not what it says on the card, but that's what happened. So I take issue with that. That is be blunt, it's poor game design. Now we create a bunch of Temerian Drummers. We actually could go Temerian Drummer and Trident Infantry if we wanted to, but I think we go double Temerian Drummer here. And use them, might even do it to boost up the other Temerian Drummer. Because these other cards have already done their thing. What's your thing now? You're gonna damage by a random amount. We have more units on the board, so it's less likely that they're gonna, you know, take out a key card here. So we'd like for them to go after either Ramon or Sienna, just because they've already done their thing, whereas the Temerian Drummers, those are much more important to us at this stage. So we could potentially either neutralizing Serum at this point, or we could use Alzur's Cleanse to power up this Temerian Drummer. Is going to be the lowest. So I do want to make sure that we have enough time. As we were just saying at the beginning of this encounter, we're weak at the beginning with our engines, and then as they start to get boosted up, they should get high enough that they're much harder for our opponents to shut down. So if we can get past that initial roadblock, we should be in much better shape. So I think we do want to invest heavily at the beginning. And then hopefully at this point, you know, now it's going to take, at this point, after the Vitality, can take 11 points of damage to get rid of the Temerian Drummer. I'm not sure if you can go above 10. I think we have seen 10. But, so you might be safe. You will take a lot of damage to get rid of as well, but, you know, all will be theoretically in removal range, whereas these two, again, we don't care too much if they get taken out. Okay, well, there's more damage. Fortunately, they went all in on one card with both sources of damage, so that wasn't a huge deal. Or it was overkill damage in that case. Spawn a random unit in this row. Okay, so that is green. And we've drawn to another boosting target. So we already have one with Trident Infantry. We had more ways to boost, but we've lost one drummer and one Stringer. I think we do still want to go here now. I think damage is probably the one that we are most concerned about, to be honest. I think that is what we want to neutralize next time we see it. And I think that being said... I mean, so given how we've established that the Caravan Vanguards are labeled incorrectly and are substantially stronger than they actually would appear to be, it seems like actually removing them is a somewhat high priority, because if they are truly gaining power based on how many copies of them they have, then that means that lowering the total number of Caravan Vanguards reduces the value of subsequent Caravan Vanguards. So going after this with an Alzur's Thunder, Masterful Thunder, is not a terrible idea. So I would potentially consider that, especially because we are not going to get damaged, at least not by their leader ability this turn. They do have a fair bit of damage from their hand, though. So that is still a little bit of a concern. Maybe just to play it safe now. Once again, we want to try to keep these engines safe, because we've already been set back quite a bit here. And we've established, actually, that they don't have a way to transform our cards. Only spawn in a random card on their side. That's a bad unit, so we'll take that. Boost random ally. Okay, we'll settle for this. So I think, for that reason, we may want to go with a Glacier, because she obviously is our potentially biggest card here. Actually, so every boost on a Glace is worth 2 points. You know, it's worth double the boost, really. Whereas every boost on Trident Infantry is also worth 1 additional point, though in his case, it's damage. That is a little less valuable because, again, they may be, well, they're not really oh, hold on, this Regis Higher Vampire needs to go. I was not paying attention, it needs to go. For boosting stuff, you are top priority. So, I mean, all these are cards we'd like to get out here, and Temerian Drummer, of course, we want to do early as well, but this is going to be, where are you? This is going to be our finisher. So let's get a Glace in this boosting pocket. You're going to get boosted by this Temerian Drummer and Stringer, so this is the best spot right here. So whoever our highest priority is, you should go here. We'll make it a Glace.
You'll be fine.
Now we need to do this, because otherwise you are going to damage one of our cards and absorb all of our boosts, and we do not want to see that. excess damage, got rid of your armor, which means you will get destroyed when you use that order ability, but that's still going to hit somebody. Okay, you do not control the other dude. Damage hits Tiana, that's fine. Now, this is the spawn one, we'll live with that. Again, we're waiting for the damaged one to use the neutralizing serum. So now let's go and get either Trident Infantry or Eternian Mauler. And if we are trying to destroy these guys, then Mauler is better. If we're just trying to split damage across multiple cards and we don't care much what card it is, then Trident Infantry works. And get a tiny bit of extra boost on the other one with the Temerian Drummer, but we're not going to have much time to make that happen. I think either way, it's going to be hard to get this card up high enough to make it super significant, so I think we will go Trident Infantry. And if they have the other guy, Dulla, then this becomes powerful. If they don't, then it's not. So that kind of dictates whether we want to deal damage to it here with Thunder, or if we feel okay about it. I'm not sure. Obviously, they must have the other card in their deck. It's just a question of, do they have it in their hand as we speak? That we don't know. Otherwise, we can go Cleanse, which use on a Glace is probably the most useful source of that. Most useful target. I think we take our chances here. And there he is. Well, so then it is still RNG centric. What does this turn into? That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Villain Treadmirth must go right now. And the only way we can potentially destroy it... Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. Caravan Vanguard is actually... This Caravan Vanguard, that's an 18, is the strongest unit right now. A Glace is going to get boosted by 2, and then boosted by Vitality, which will get you up to 18, which means you'll be tied, this Caravan Vanguard, unless we throw in an Eternian Mauler in one of these spots and steal one of the boosts from a Glace and make this backfire on you, which we definitely want to do. We definitely want to do that. Yes. So, let's go this route. We're also running out of time to use the neutralizing serums for what it's worth. So I know we were waiting for the damage, but we have 3 turns left and only 2 neutralizing serums. So, you know, we could use it on this turn, but we'll go with Eternian Mauler here because we are looking for a, ideally, boosting recipient to go with this, and then maybe we'll throw the Temerian Drummer, or rather throw Zoltan Shiva in between these two. So let's do this. So we're actually not going to target you with any damage, because we actually want you to trigger, because this should be, at this point, 1 boost from Vitality, 1 boost from Temerian Drummer gets you up to 17, so this is still guaranteed to be the highest when this triggers, unless you do something to fundamentally change that. But that means, I mean, we could damage something else if we really wanted to, like Terror of the Seas or Fair Abomination. If we get the overkill damage, that does help us out. Cleanse, of course, we would like to put on, ideally, a Glace, but that's not something we want to do in this turn, otherwise she does become the highest unit, so that's a no-go. We could do that on Eternian Mauler to make this a little more powerful of an order ability. Sure. It's a little bit cheaper than the damage is, so we'll opt to go that route. We have a lot of ground to make up here, though. Obviously, a Glace is a big finisher. They are about to... Oh, no, don't... Oh, my God. Trident Infantry. What the heck? Trident Infantry happened to hit this. Are you kidding me? Random damage from Trident Infantry hits the card that makes it take damage. So we were tied for 17 apiece, and that meant that it was a 50-50 chance whether Villain Treadmirth hits you or hits a Glace, and it hits a Glace. So we lost. We have definitely lost. Admittedly, did not think that was going to happen, but let's see. This got 1, 2 boosts. on that turn. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They probably played one card, so on that turn, one of these. So with 2 damage, we had 2 chances, 2 1 in 11 chances to hit that. One moment while I do some math here. Let's see. 1 divided by 11. Oh, is it really? It's 10 divided by 11 times 10 divided by 11, right? Hold on. So that would be chance of it not hitting, 1 minus this. Yeah, there was a 17.355% chance of that happening. It's not a ridiculously low probability, but that's pretty low. That's pretty low probability of that happening. So, wow. I really don't think there's a win case for us anymore. We'll neutralizing serum, shut this down, because we only have 2 more turns left, and so why not? But, yeah. There is too much of a deficit here. That feels like junk. So, I mean, I know that's what this enemy is about, is he's all RNG, but, you know, that just feels like, makes me feel like garbage. Because, you know, it's not much we could have done to stop that. We did the math preemptively. We found a clever way to make our opponent use a skill that would backfire against them, and ultimately we got punished for it. So that, you know, we were talking about before what constitutes good game design, what constitutes bad game design. Deceptive mechanics, bad wording with explanations, which was the case on these guys, or at least so it seemed. And you want to reward players for making smart, well thought out choices, and you want to punish players for making poor decisions that are not well thought out. And yeah, there's always RNG, which you need to balance in a game. You need to find a way to make it so that there's enough RNG that it's not totally the same every single time. Otherwise, you know, if there was no RNG, it would quite literally be the same game every time. Once you figure out the correct winning formula, you do that every time, and you win every time. There's no variance to it whatsoever. But if you have too much RNG, then you risk going to the point where, you know, you could do everything right and still mess up, or you can do everything right and still lose. You can do everything wrong and still win. The latter might sound great, might feel great when it happens, but it also feels like you didn't deserve it in some cases, which is, you know, still maybe not the best game design. Losing when you do things right is not good. That's the thing that, you know, makes people say, you know, this game is not really working the way it should here. And I know, obviously, we haven't played perfectly, but, I mean, not every single thing that we've done has been RNG, right? It was random damage that happened to be enough to take us out because it high rolled every time. It was random damage from this backfiring, or the best possible card to counter us, which they randomly spawned in, and then we had a counter for their counter, which backfired because random damage that has 17.3% chance of hitting the one unit that we didn't want to hit that one unit, and then it set us back, so we lost. So, you know, it's like, what was I supposed to do? So, it doesn't feel good. We've used this. It doesn't feel good. You know, and you say things, well, like Lids, but there are games like Dark Souls that are all about being punishing. The thing that makes Dark Souls and other very difficult games that are known for being difficult games so good is that they don't just punish you for the sake of punishing you. They punish you for doing things wrong. And there is a right way to do them, and when you do them the right way, you are rewarded and you win. It's not really RNG. Now, in some cases, there's like random troll, or there are some trolling things, like mimics and what have you, that will, you know, just exist to ruin your day to a certain extent, yes, but those are largely one-off little memes. Having a significant fight in which it's all up to RNG, that's not good. So, I know you guys had said before that this guy is difficult, and that, you know, we did succeed the first time we went against him, but this is not exactly Not exactly.
I can use a pint.
A pleasant experience. At this point, we took Cleanse and Masterful Thunder, which this is just consistent boost, which synergizes well with our deck, but of course is at most worth 3 points, or if you're using it on a card that can get additional benefits from those boosts, 6 points like a Glace. This can potentially high roll for slightly more damage, and the overkill can be a little bit more. But if you compare this to in the past when we were using things like Portal, which has the chance of being much more of a high roll, that would potentially be the kind of thing that can bail you out of these tricky situations once you find yourself falling behind. But it means that now that we are looking at this big deficit, there is, mathematically speaking, no way for us to come back from it. There we go. Masterful Thunder is our best option here, but this one's gonna sting. Excuse me? Use this, and then I'd like to activate the card, please. Thank you. Yeah. So that you'd want to target a low power card with this to potentially get overkill damage. The armor control low, that's not really going to be a factor. I mean, you might get some overkill damage on you, but in that case, might as well do this. And that's really the only thing left that we have to do here. We'll get a little bit of boost and vitality, and boost from that vitality, but that's not enough to make up a 21-point deficit here. They still have 1 turn left, of course. We neutralize the failed experiment, but it's not going to be enough, so, you know, I'm a little mad at myself, but mostly I'm disappointed in the game.
Have you seen a fuse lying about, have you?
Because I know it's RNG, it's supposed to be an RNG-centric encounter, but at the same time, the only thing that we could have done differently and more successfully there would have been if we had more aggressively used our leader ability on the first 2 or 3 turns and used Cleanse to boost up Anna Stranger and a Temerian Drummer, and then they would have been alive for a little bit longer, and then with that, would have had more time to stay on the board and give us additional boosts. With that, would that have been enough? Even then, I'm not sure if it would have been. So if quite literally every single thing that you do, if everything went perfectly and it is still impossible to win, then that's bad game design. So, like, I'm sorry. I accept a certain level of RNG, but that was kind of absurd.
Must I relive this failure again and again?
And that marks just our second loss and does end what was a 5-game win streak, maybe 6, something like that. Yeah. So we obviously have not finished a run now with a Glace. We had deliberately gone after those elite encounters because we thought that perhaps getting an upgrade on a Glace would be significant. Does Glace not show up when you're looking at the global cards here? I guess not. But yeah. So I guess that means we'll try again with a Glace on our next run, or we will opt to choose an entirely different archetype with new leader, like Melusine on Savage Fury. Could potentially be what we go for next instead. But, yeah. This was, I didn't like that. Not just because it'd be one thing if we lost for a legitimate, well, we made a bad mistake and we got punished for it. But that's not really what happened. And that's why I'm just really disappointed in the game. So, you know, that's, I don't love it. I don't love that. But alas, next time we'll hop in, we'll give it another shot. Hopefully we'll fare a little bit better that time. It had been a long time since we encountered the failed experiment, of course, and so, you know, maybe it was about time we got our comeuppance. But alas, with that being said, I think we should wrap things up here. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.